What's going on, guys? We're live. We're live. Let me know if you guys are in chat right now. I know we're still a little bit early. We're on Indian time right now. So I'm testing out a new mic and I'm trying to get it right. Um, Makes life a little bit easier, not having to use a wireless mic anymore. I got it kind of hard jacked, but let me know in the chat, kind of what you guys think. If you guys can hear me, press one. If you can hear me in the chat, press one. Um, it's spooky season. It's spooky season. Let's see what we got going on here. A lot of weird things, a lot of spooky things going on. Let's get some people in here. So when you're hearing this on the back end, like I said, let me know if you guys what you guys think of the mic. If you can hear me a little bit more clear, if I need to add some bass, got that little man voice, little baby boy voice. Let me know if I need to add a little bit of. I guess it's called triple. No, I'm just. But this spooky season time is very, I would say, very diabolical is the word that I want to use. Diabolical. No, I'm just kidding. But it's always this time of year where things and weird things are happening. The seasons are changing. People are wilding out, doing some crazy stuff, and so we're gonna do a lot of these live streams. And let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Put a one. Make sure that my voice is coming across clear. Um, but we're gonna do a few, or I'm gonna do a few live streams. Going forward in this month. I'm still trying to debate on it, like if I want to do a special guest for Halloween, or if I want to do this as creepy part four. Um, that's something that I'm kind of trying to mull over a little bit because you just never know. You truly never know because I got some stories lined up. They're a little bit different in terms of like this is creepy. That could be more of a uh, it'd be more of like a kind of nature spooky. Um, a few Bigfoot stories. I'm going to share some stories from a gentleman that I have been in contact with. Um, I got some stories from Mr. Jared Davis out of Salina. Um, and so there's a few things that are coming down the pipeline, especially for Halloween. You never know who may show up on the podcast, though. You just never know because I like to keep it. I like to let y'all know like 2 days before I post, like, hey, so and so's coming on. You better or make sure you catch it. But for those of you guys joining me, I appreciate you guys coming on. Let me know, in the chat what you think of the mic. It's brand new, just out the box. I'm still working out the kinks, but um, I just want to make sure that things are not sounding terrible. But let's see here. Got a few people in chat right now. So like I said, this is spooky season number one. Kind of getting into what are we like second week? I guess yeah, second week, ending the second week or starting the third week. Um, and one thing that's kind of crazy to me that I've been seeing a lot of, and maybe it's just because I follow conspiracy. I'm on conspiracy TikTok or conspiracy Facebook or conspiracy Instagram. It's a lot of weird stuff going on. I mentioned on the last live stream that I did like a month ago, 2 months ago, was the lady that was I think her name was Tiffany Gomez. She was on that plane and she had that kind of crazy drunk voice where he's not real. He's not real. Somebody, crazy voice. But but she said she saw a shapeshifter in the bag. Well, I mentioned, that they started kind of seeing that there were some intelligence operations happening at that time. And more videos have come out on that. And she's basically, been doing like the Baphomet poses and some of like the way she was holding it. And if you notice with LeBron James, he does that same thing where he puts his two hands like he puts his hands together, his pointer finger and his middle finger together on both fingers, puts them two together in front of his chest, and then go out and then holds them. She did the same thing. So I don't know if that's connected. Who knows really what's going on with that, but another kind of thing that I've run into, and it was kind of brought to my attention today. Actually, it was very interesting. I've been kind of looking at it, but I just kind of forget because there's so much stuff going on. But there's kind of a weird cloning conspiracy going on with Jamie Foxx and Monique, the comedian. If you guys remember her, she was in. Dang it, I forgot the name of that movie now. She was in Precious. Was the movie? Great movie. She had come out on Roseanne Barr's podcast, and if you guys know anything about Roseanne Barr, she's hilarious, but like she's kind of crazy, like a little bit out there, almost too far. But Monique came out and said basically that Jamie Foxx was cloned, or he wasn't right. Because if you remember that the the episode or the video that came out of Jamie Foxx, and he was looking like Paleface Rider, looking like Death's Door, looking like Zombie, looking like uh, what's that dude off Trailer Park Boys, Mr. Leahy, looking all pale. Ah, anyways, but he was looking rough. I mean, he had freckles and everything. I said, "Dang, looking like that little boy from Little Rascals." Dang, all looking like Death's Door, man. God, but she come out and said, "If you see something wrong with my neck, she basically said she had a fat neck, and she looks skinny in the neck, you know, she's cloned." And she made mention that there was somebody she was doing a kind of a conspiracy joke on stage, and she was doing open, kind of what what she does. And this man was standing in the front row, and she said, "Man, he kind of gave me CIA vibes. He gave me FBI vibes." And she couldn't quite really put a finger on this guy. Well, she goes, "Sir, you're in a dark nightclub. Take your shades off. What you doing?" And this dude takes his shades off, and he got black eyes. And I know y'all talk about black-eyed kids, black-eyed people, you know, that's kind of wild that she saw that in public, and he kind of looked at her like, you know who I am. I could take you out anytime. And so, that's kind of crazy, kind of what she was talking about. But you never know what's going on in that. I ain't gonna say the word, but you never know what's going on with these Hollywood elites. They even talked about when somebody goes or missing or has like a really bad situation happen to them health wise, and they come back like 3 months later and they're like doing all these movies. At the time when Jamie Foxx he got real sick. A movie had come out about uh kind of cloning, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was like Don't Clone Tyrone. It was on Netflix. It was a Netflix movie. It's a good movie. It was a really good movie. But they clone the entire hood. That's kind of the point of the movie. Like and like the hood was basically some type of um, kind of like a petri dish. They were controlling parts of that neighborhood and making people fight and selling drugs and basically making kind of like a like I said, petri dish or whatever you want to call it, microcosm of society. And Jamie Foxx played he played a clone in that right before he got sick. So I don't know if maybe it could be, what do they call that, uh, art imitating life. We never know. But let's get I got a few people in here. Let me know, guys. I'm testing out this new mic. Let me know what you think. If you're hearing this on the back end, skip forward. I apologize, but gotta get this thing right. Let me know who's in chat. Hit me in the comments. You got a question? I even got the link down there too as well. So if you want to join, um, and tell a story or talk about something, we can go as long as y'all want to go. So if y'all want to go till tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, we'll do it." No, I'm just playing. No, I ain't gonna do all that. But if y'all want to jump in, tell a story, um, I don't know, talk about something, we can let it rip. We got some time tonight, but another thing I kind of came across, and this is something kind of more, I guess you'd say, more Oklahoma. But one thing that I kind of have noticed about the landscape of, really, I guess, our state, like, it's really strange to me how we have pockets of like random people, like pockets of like, this type of nationality or this type of like all these different people, and how we're all kind of like in our own groups. And I moved out west, kind of West Oklahoma City, and I am super regretting that. Like, I really am. Like, I'm really, like, people can't drive here. Like, they just be, you know, just spinning, man, just going crazy. But I just kind of, have kind of thought, kind of in a spooky sense, that there's more things that I think that we just build over the top of, um, and we allow civilization to just kind of take over things that were already here. And I say that in terms of Oklahoma, and people that will just build houses. Like, y'all just building a house and y'all don't even know where that ground's been, or where that what that ground has. And I see it a lot here in West Oklahoma City, Central Oklahoma, I guess you could say. And with different weird things happening. Like, I'm gonna tell you guys a story. I had we had just moved out here, and I always get kind of this weird kind of spooky vibes, I guess you could say, about things. And sometimes it wakes me up in the middle of the night, and it kind of makes me feel like, ooh, it's like I got to check on the girls, or something like that. And I was laying in bed, and at the time our room was, uh, like, where the bed sat. I could see directly into the kitchen, kind of where the table was. And I looked, and I'm like, what is that? And I saw a shadow walk by the table in front of it, going into both of my daughters' room at the time. I got kind of weirded out. I said, when I got up, I would imagine, I'm trying to put this kind of in a picture for you guys. Imagine me like getting up, seeing a shadow, and then like the rage I had. Like, I'm thinking like, oh, somebody just, we hadn't been here a month. Somebody, oh, we got like somebody thinking, oh, I can get them easy. I'm gonna get them. And I'm like, nah. So I get up, and I'm kind of moving my way through the house back into the kitchen, and I kind of open up my daughter's room, and I don't see nothing. I checked the entire house, kind of, scoped out, and I just thought it was very strange because I don't know where this, we kind of just moved in this house, kind of just haphazardly, kind of just that's what we needed to do, and you just never know what we're building upon, and what happens when civilization just moves in. You know, I know we talked on spirit talkers, um I'd say probably last year, and we talked about how different homes, like, people don't realize, even native people don't really realize, and it's kind of a lost way. And I'm guilty of it too. Um when I get to part, I think it'll be part 4 of my stories that I have. I stayed in a house that was like super haunted. Like, it was something was going on, and I don't know if it was demons. I don't know what it was, but my dogs wouldn't even sleep. In certain parts of the house, or if there was no lights on in the house, or there's no, they were gone. They were trying to find somewhere to lay. That wasn't in any part of the room. So there's a lot of weird stuff, but let's see here. I'm gonna look into chat here. Sometimes my chat kind of runs slow, so let me see here. Just once. Hey, there we go. Someone said less static on the mic. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm trying to get this thing worked out because at the end of the day, man, yeah, some people want to hear me talk. I guess. Nah, but if you got a story and you want to join, the link is in the comments in the chat. So if you want to get in here and tell a story, I mean, it doesn't matter if you've never been on my show or you never talked to me before. This is open floor. Like anybody can come up. We going back uh Christopher Honka Hill style. We just gonna put an open challenge out there to somebody telling a story. So if you want to come in and tell a story, it don't matter who no matter who you are, and you talking crazy, we're gonna have to get you out of here. But if you want to come in and tell a story, come on and tell a story. Um, you know, I'm gonna be kind of discussing some things, and we got episode coming out this week. I'm looking at it Wednesday or Thursday. Gonna be talking about either I haven't decided. I kind of record in doubles, and I kind of decide which episode I want to post. We're gonna be either talking about Gustav the Killer Croc, or we're gonna do a uh, YT4 early years, another part of that. And so we'll see what happens, but kind of like I said, getting back to kind of some spooky things. Um, Here in the last, I'd say, week, uh, Colorado, actually out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, there was a funeral home, and the name of the funeral home escapes me at this time, but it was super weird. So there was a funeral home that had 115 bodies just rotting in this funeral home. And the funeral home has kind of this new age type of um, like I guess I don't know. Like I said, I don't know nothing about new age burials. I guess that people are basically they don't embalm people. They just basically dig a 6 foot hole and put them in the ground. I guess I don't know, but basically it's like a natural burial, like kind of old school. But basically what they do is like they dig that hole, and but this funeral home wasn't doing that. They found 115 bodies in that funeral home, which is kind of wild. Like it's super wild. Like imagine, your mom or your dad or your brother, and you're like, "Hey, man, they really wanted that natural, that old ways burial. Let's dig that 6 foot hole and just throw their body in there and let nature take its course." And you walk into the reception room of this, of a place that does that, and they have 115 rotting bodies. My goodness, I can smell it. I can smell it from here in Oklahoma. How bad that would smell. That's brutal. That's super brutal. That's like, dang, that's brutal. I mean, imagine you smelling 115 carcasses, and the people that are working the front desk, they just like, oh no, it's nothing. It ain't nothing. We just out here, we want to make sure that people are taken care of. But then they like just rotten. But so the somebody reported this to the police in Colorado Springs, and the police come out and they're like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, people are smelling dead bodies. We can smell it from here in the lobby. And what's like, you know, what's going on?" And the police haven't revealed any at this. I mean, that I've read so far. And I just thought that was real odd that it came across my timeline. Um, but essentially, the people were arrested, and that's another sad thing. Like, man, just imagine you have a relative who's just like rotting in some box or rotting in some free not even freezer, like just open air, like zombie apocalypse style open air. It's kind of wild, but that's out of Colorado Springs, and that's like I said, I'll do some more digging on that. But there's a lot of just different kind of eerie things that go on in around different parts of the country. Um, kind of in my not my I would say travels, but kind of just asking questions and getting a hold of people and just different things like that. I know we had a recent I had a recent interview with Matt Knapp from Bigfoot Crossroads, and his story, the story that he told about the man who shot at a Sasquatch and basically ripped killed basically everything, everything that was at that man's farm. I often wonder, the discussion when it comes to are these things like when I hear stories like that, I'm like, all right, this thing's a beast, like an animal. But then I also hear stories like, oh, okay, well, like you know, this thing is, you know, a man or tribe, or like they practice things, they do these things, and that's kind of one thing that I'm always kind of back and forth on when it comes to Dogman is like I can't imagine a werewolf just walking around. And if you guys haven't heard the last episode, I or the was it 2 episodes ago, I was on Bigfoot Society podcast here on YouTube. Jeremiah Bryan, he's a good guy. Appreciate him having me on. And I discussed a story that kind of made me question these things. And I had some people reach out to me about um, some things around that area, and been possible, in Oklahoma too as well. I often wonder if like, 'cause I know, like I said, the hybrids. I don't know. Like, eventually, I'm going to post that picture of that hyena, the picture of the hyena I took out of the safari, and it was very, it's kind of strange. It's like very weird to me that, that these animals don't look very big on TV, but they're like monsters. Just very interesting. Um, let's see here. Let's see what's going on in chat. Man, I'm so happy this mic is working. Like, it's like sounding a whole lot better because, like, I know in some after the fact, like one of the most frustrating things about doing a podcast is when you listen to the whole episode and then like at the very end you hear like this staticky noise, like something's interfering with the wireless mic, and then you have to go and re-record it, and then you don't hear it, and then you hear it when you're listening to the episode when it's once it's published. That's called that 13th reason why. Makes me just want to throw the dang headset. But let's see. Who do we got in chat right now? Let me know where you're at in chat. Let me know where you're at. I'd like to see where you guys are. I want to make sure that you got some good people in here. No, I'm just kidding. I really can't wait for um, this is creepy 4. There's some good stories, some good LP stories, and um, some good. I lost my train of thought. I got YouTube. I got the my research pulled up here. There's sometimes when like on the podcast, I don't want to go too deep on things, just for the simple fact that like I really don't want those things to come see me. I really don't want something missing and have to look for it, and so. But but like I said, I was on the Bigfoot Society podcast, and sorry guys, I was reading. I'm just like I'm trying to multitask here, but one thing that I find very very interesting about um kind of the topic of Bigfoot, but like one thing that I find very odd about Bigfoot in general, and I mentioned it briefly on or 2 episodes ago, was the fact that how like it's kind of got a cult, like it's like a cult or like fanatical. It kind of makes me nervous. Dang, that digital LP, ah, You know what's so crazy? I was thinking about this too. Like, the word digital just struck a nerve. I'm jumping everywhere, guys. I apologize. But I really thought about this in kind of a deep thought today, and it has to do with the simulation theory. Because like I always hear people saying they manifest things, and they're really like really thinking like, oh, if you really put your mind behind it, and you really really do this, it'll happen. And my thought is too like, what if we can change our reality by like a way like, and I'm not trying to be like a weirdo about this, but like, what if we could like change it and we're just like, hey, it's like I really, really want to be able to afford this couch or this whatever. And I want this amount of money, and it happens because we're like in a simulation theory. Because but then it kind of throws out like the flat earth, I think. Or I mean, it could actually expound on the flat earth. And eventually we will talk about flat earth on this podcast. My only fear about that, talking about flat earth, is kind of like it's almost kind of crazy, but it almost sounds right. Like it almost sounds right. For a lot of cultures, a lot of cultures. Even like back in old maps, they talk about the edge of the world. They talk about different different like endpoints of the plane of existence. And so eventually we'll get to that flat Earth, but man, I just don't want to sound crazy. I don't want to sound crazy. I really don't. Because like there's some things that like when it came to Antarctica and with Admiral Byrd's diary, I was really, really not trying to talk about, you know, the what do they call it? The blonde hair people that basically run the world and things like that. Because once you start talking about stuff like that, it's just very, people get kind of like, oh, this dude's crazy. Like this guy, we can't hire this guy. We can't, we can't do business with this guy. This man is off the rails. He is gone to a place and he is not coming back. This man is Kyrie Irving Jr. This man is Shaq Diesel the third because I think he's already got Shaq Jr. But like I said, spooky season. Um, you know, one thing about this time is there's all these cultures that have this. What is it like death? Like we have so much fun celebrating death. We have a lot of fun, and when we get closer to Halloween, I guess I'll tell it now. But anyways, I'll have to go ahead and tell a story. So, and I may have mentioned this story before, um, but when we were trick or treating a lot, you ever like feel like like something's not right? And so when me and my brother, we used to run the streets. My parents would drop us off, and they'd, obviously they'd be in the car, they'd walk behind us or whatever, and we would always trick or treat. We would always, it's like we always ran into the weirdest people. And my brother, he's like I'm not gonna say he doesn't listen, but sometimes he doesn't listen, much like little brothers do, I guess, or little siblings, I guess. But I was having this conversation with a family member of mine today about trick or treating and this kind of weird thing in Tahlequah back in the early 2000s and the late 90s. Where things weren't quite digital, but they weren't quite digital, or they weren't quite analog. So like we were in this kind of weird period of where major stuff hasn't came to the town yet, and so we're still basically by word of mouth or newspaper or those things, those old ways of communication. And we are always told that there's certain things and certain people that you don't go around, especially at this time, because there's always things that lurk, and there's always things that it's like. with us giving, and I give back, this is go back to the simulation theory, but like we put so much, how I say, gumption and so much intent, so much forethought into these things that they manifest. And, I remember being a young guy, and I would also like it was kind of weird in some aspects because like how to like I would often think like often kind of notice that like it was extra dark on one street and like hey there's shadows, but like you would walk up and there would be nobody there when you're trick or treating, or you would be walking, you go up to a house or you knock on the door and the door just opens. There was a few times when it came to trick or treating, we would go up to the door and we would knock and the door would just open. And that happened a lot at that, in that time. And I'm sure you guys can probably relate to that. But that's one thing that's kind of spooky about this time of year is everybody wears a mask. You don't know who's who. You don't know who's where, and you don't know who's what. And growing up, we would always be told don't go to these houses, and like I said, like I mentioned before, and that's kind of a creepy thing if you think about it, real spooky. Because like back in those days, I know they would just say, "Hey, kids, go out in the neighborhood and try to get yourself some candy." And you always see these slasher movies back in the day where the kids would just be walking down the street and doing this, doing that, and you just never know. You just truly, really never know what's going on, and that's to me very spooky because I think the fear of the unknown and the fear of not knowing what's in front of you. I guess that's why we don't like the dark. But yeah, I'm kind of just everywhere on this live stream. I kind of that's why I like live streams because I can kind of go off the chat, but also if I got something in front of me, I'm like, oh okay, we'll talk about that. But with Halloween, I remember like I said, growing up or uh, as I got older, I think things started tightening up a little bit more when it came to parents and things like that. Because who really trying to leave their kid in 2023 roaming the streets in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Muskogee? Like all these three cities are like not good places to be. When it comes to those things. Excuse me. But it's kind of amazing. Like I said, it's amazing. Being able to share things and talk about things, and that's one thing that I always get kind of nervous talking about some things, especially when it comes to like I had somebody reach out to me about doing an episode on owls, and one thing that I get really, really kind of nervous about is the fact that those are really I don't like omens, but they're also can be skilly witch, and those are the things I would say along with tie snake that scare me the most is those things, skilly or like witches, and tie snakes, and I'm sharing my fears over the internet, so don't come and see me, but because one thing that that about owls and about those things that go bump in the night is they feed off kind of uncertainty, confusion. um my grandpa always used to say the only way that you can have a strong mind is a strong body, and as I got older and understand that now, as long as and I'm not saying like I'm not. I used to be work out a lot. Now, with two kids now, it's brutal. And I'm sure it's like that with a lot of other people. But that's one thing that I think is very true is when it comes to your fears and things like that. For me, being scared of those things, I mean, I'm not around any water, and there's always been like when I was out at Lake Eufaula, like I was, and I'll tell some of those stories, on episodes, but I'll give you some insight on that. Like I spent a lot of time in Tahlequah and Eufaula Lake uh, when I got into my early 20s. I was either at the river or I was at the lake. It was either one, two, because I had to be near a body of water. I had to. That's just part of life. And I think that getting in that water when I got to a certain age and seeing some of the stuff and hearing about people that have went missing or drowned in those waters have, kind of scared me in a sense to going back to those places. I haven't been to the river since that little boy drowned, back in, I think it was like 2017, I believe. And I haven't been back. Um, One of the freakiest things, kind of really, I'm getting goosebumps talking about now, is I used to hear like we'd be on a boat or like a canoe or something, or something, not a canoe, kayak out and you fall lake, and I'd hear that moo, and those snakes, they imitate, almost like imitate a cow, like a cow or cattle. And I was out there with some friends, and we are sitting out there, music's blasting, but we could hear that moo over that music. And I had all my friends looking at me like, because I'm the only Indian. Like I hate to say, like I was the only Indian that knew of things. I had Indian friends out there, but sometimes you just get away from that when you're young. But but it was always very creepy to me, and hearing those sounds. I remember being on a lake shore, and it was getting dark. And you at Eufaula, and you could hear like something was slapping that bank, like when the water rushes up and it slaps it. I remember hearing those noises and being like, "What was that?" Sounded like it sounds like when you're like, you see those '80s movies where they get that towel and they wrap it and they snap it. That's what it sounded like, but it was loud. I don't know if that was, I don't know if that was a snake, or I don't know if that was just my imagination, but that's the fear that I have of those two places. And we also have, like I said, the Oklahoma octopus is around here, and there's been sightings of it. There's not haven't hasn't been very many. I think the first one was like early 2000s, but you just never know what's in those waters because they've been here a long time. Let's see here in chat. So we got a movie here. So I let my son watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3 last night. What's your favorite Freddy flick? My favorite one is the second one. The second one, the most iconic scene for me, and I don't. This may be the second one or third one. I can't exactly remember. It might be the first one. I don't know. Anyways, this scene, and this is the reason why like as a youngster I stopped watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Was the scene where they pulled that person through the bed, like grabbed him and pulled him through the bed. I knew that moment. I was like, I'm good. I'm good. I had to sit back and reevaluate my 10-year-old life and be like, yeah, I'm good. And I don't get scared at stuff like that, but I used to have dreams as a kid, and then I guess this kind of coincides with that. But I used to have dreams as a kid, and one dream and goes back to the snakes, is I used to have a dream of this black snake, and Russell Sun Eagle, and myself, we did a podcast about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, and we talked about having dreams of this snake, of this black snake, which is very strange. He's Pawnee. He's from kind of more northern Oklahoma, and I'm from kind of central east kind of area, Muskogee, Tahlequah. I guess it's northeast, but he's kind of more west. But we used to have similar dreams, and I have a relative of mine who's from almost central. I guess I'd say central, and she had dreams about the snake, this black snake, and that's so strange. Like I often wonder if that's like the connectedness of natives, or if that's maybe the same entity being, coming to see you. But the dream that I had as a kid is we used to live in this trailer house um, in Tahlequah. As you get into Tahlequah, kind of over there by Del Rancho. If you're from Tahlequah and you listen to this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Ross Mobile Homes, kind of rough. Um, it's rough and really rough now. I used to not. It wasn't as rough me living there like when we was living there, but it could be. And um, but I always had this dream, and it happened a lot. Is my dream would always take me to when I would be walking outside to play with my friends, and I'd walk down the steps, and we'd be playing, and it was as real as can be. I remember thinking that this was real for a long time, and I remember walking down the steps, and this happened. Like I said, this dream has happened multiple times. We're playing football, basketball. We're just doing volleyball. We had volleyball set outside, playing with a bunch of res kids and Hispanic kids and black kids. We was all just kind of hanging out and having fun. Just doing our thing. You know, being res dogs, I guess you could say. And everybody disappeared. And I looked around, and I didn't know where everybody was. And so I started walking around the house looking for people because there were times, in real life where my friends would disappear, like we play hide and seek, or they would just walk away or go. We try to scare each other. We was always trying to scare each other. But I walked down to the edge of our trailer, and I looked down, and all I could see was two yellow eyes underneath the trailer, and it always really scared me. I'd always right before the snake would be into the light, I would wake up, and I could tell it was a black snake because it blended in with the darkness of that trailer underneath that trailer. And I always really get real spooked out about that. And when I heard Russell tell that story of that snake that was coming to see him, and then I had a cousin who told me that they had a story about this black snake or this darker colored snake swimming through the river or the water that they were at in their dream. Every time it rained, I would have that dream. Maybe that's. I always often wonder if that was me if it was the snake trying to tell me something, or I spent a lot of time, or the snake knew we were going to run into each other at some point. I tell the story. It's on TikTok, and I think it's on here on YouTube as well. But the story that I tell where I saved a girl's life. She was drowning in Illinois River. And she was telling me that she you know was something was pulling her down, and she could not get up. I mean, it was really she was having a lot of trouble, and using the leverage of the raft, I pulled her up, threw her back in there, and she looked at me with a lot of fear and said, something was pulling me down, and thank you for saving me. That was the same summer that it flooded later on. Uh, or no, I'm sorry. The next spring it rained and flooded out the Illinois River. Let's look at chat. The vein. Let's see here. The vein part freaked him out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, man. Like I think that was one thing too. Growing up, like I had family who like we would just watch, like we just watch stuff like rated R, no filter, like absolutely no filter, and I stand behind that. Like I remember being like a young dude watching Panic Room. Like I might have been like 7, and Panic Room was with Jodie Foster, and I can't remember the other girl's name, but it was like that was kind of a psychological thriller with all the lights, and I remember watching Anaconda as a little dude too, like. It's kind of goofy. Anaconda's really goofy, but like as a young buck, you're like, dang, this is really happening. Not Ice Cube, don't take us. Whatever happened to NWA? "We need more music from this man, don't kill him." Or like Deep Blue Sea with LL Cool J. I'm glad he survived because he had some more hits. He had more hits to write, you know? He had more things to say, you know? I'm glad he survived in that movie. The Alabama Black Snake. Yeah. But 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 yeah, no, like dreams to me are very, very, very strange, very interesting. You know, as you guys know, I lost my grandpa back in 2021 or late 2021, December to be exact. And I had a very vivid dream when I moved here to where I'm at now, and I still think about it every day. And we were at a funeral. We were at someone else's funeral, and he was laying so my grandpa, he used to have a couch in his house in Tahlequah in Park Hill. This dude, I miss it. He like we walk in his house, he would never have it locked, door never locked. He'd have like a old Indian blanket over the dang second part of the room, and just he was a funny dude, man. I remember walking in and he's all laid out, stressed out, just hanging out, And in my dream that I had, it was him. He was doing that, but he was underneath a tree, real big tree, and it looked like the tree over at his grave, where he's buried, and it's under. He has creek home out West Yahola, and my dream, he's sitting underneath that tree and he's kind of smiling, doing his smile. He used to, kind of that's kind of the tiger smirk is what we call it. We kind of look at somebody and smirk because we got something planned, we got something going on. We about to scheme on you, or we know something that you don't know. And he had that look. Uh, I told my dad this story as well, but or this dream, and he's looking at me. He kind of looks at me like that he knows something, and it was myself, my dad, and my uncles, and my little brother. He was my little cousin. There was two. He was there too in that dream, and he kind of looked at me. He said, "I got stories for you, but you got to find them." And I think about that a lot. What he said, and sometimes I wonder if it's him trying to tell me something, or he's like, "Hey, you got stories that need to be unearthed, or you need to find these stories." He told me, he said, "You got stories. I got stories that you need to find." And so I'm looking around in this dream, I'm looking around and I find them, and it's a box full of stories from all over Eufaula, Henrietta, Hannah, a few other places. I think he had some um, out of Tahlequah, and so I found it in the dream, and I recognized the front. It was one of his old. He used to collect stories from people, and he would write them down because all the stories that he has. These people are gone, and I'm wondering, and part of me wonders if it's like, hey, you need to find those stories and maybe tell them, give people their proper credit, because sometimes people forget these stories and of their family members. Like I forgot, and I'm still. I mean, I still reach out to family members about stories that they have or that they've told and or that they want to tell. But I thought that was a really interesting dream. Dang. So I got a comment here. My babysitter put on Pet Cemetery and headed to bingo. Guy took my guy on a ride and left. My man was gone. My man was so shook. He was under the covers and she was gone. She had to win. She had to go win her some money. She had to make sure she got that bingo. She said, "I'll be back 3 or 4 hours." Dang. She got home right before the parents got home. sneaking in. If that ain't an '80s movie, my guy Osiris Unboxed, man. You had that '80s childhood where your babysitter just like, hey, watch this movie. I'll be back in 3 hours. He was living a dream. You know, my parents. I don't think I ever. I think we had a babysitter out in Stillwell or going towards Stillwell or Briggs or I can't remember where exactly where it was at. It was headed towards. I think it might have been Holbert actually. But man, we was heathens to that lady. I feel bad to this day about that. Man, we was like, when is our mom coming? When is our mom coming back to get us? Because sometimes my parents had to work, or you know, sometimes parents need a night off. Sometimes our kids be wilding out. We need something. We need a little something, to, you know, get us through the week. Nah, but yeah, man, that's dreams are very interesting to me. They're very, very interesting because I often wonder if it's like if it's how I say, if it's like a look into another dimension or a parallel universe. You know, I know I've talked about CERN and kind of how that's affected some things. Um, I know the Monopoly Man's monocle was one of them. I know the Bernstein Bears or whatever they're called. I know they're one of them. Britney Spears' skirt is one of them, which is kind of wild. Um, there's a few things that I think CERN is affected, and I also think that there's times where I think our consciousness goes in and out of a parallel universe. I think that's when we sleep. I think that's when that happens, in my opinion. Because there's times where like I'll have dreams and like I'm in a totally different place. Like I'll have no kids, nothing. Like I'm a single guy, or like I'm in like a weird virus-ridden universe where I'm having to kill people that I love because they're zombies. So I think dreams do have some type of parallel. Let me get something to drink real quick, y'all. Man, I didn't bring my drink in here. Man, my water, my voice is going. I can feel it. Man, with this weather change, y'all, it's hitting me hard over here. But we're almost at an hour. I can't believe I've been going an hour and just talking to y'all for an hour. Sometimes I often wonder if like I don't ever listen like to live streams. I don't ever listen back to them because I feel like I'm just rambling on about things, which I guess that happens when you're a one man show. But that's kind of a crazy thing that about this podcast is I never imagined that people would actually be like, "Hey, man, I actually kind of want to hear what you got to say." And I'm like, "Really?" I get messages daily about from people that just say, "Hey, man, appreciate you, um, you know, doing this, doing that. Appreciate you sharing that story. I had this happen to me. I've never heard of you know some of these stories, or I've never not never heard of them, but I never would have experienced these stories and hearing them from people because at the end of the day, I'm a guy that collects stories and tells them. You know, I'm like a voice for people that are kind of nervous to come on and tell it. Which eventually we'll get to the point now where we'll have people that will just come on and share their story, and then that'll be it. Because at the end of the day, I think the most important thing is to ensure that we have these stories, regardless if you're native, non-native, if you're whatever ethnicity or race or culture or whatever you are. I think you should share your story, and I think that those are important because one thing that I wish that I kind of you know regret in a sense. I've always done podcasts. I've always had them. Like I've done them in the past, and I'm mad that I never sat down and just interviewed my grandpa. And I know some people, you guys still have your grandpa, you still have your family member, and I think getting their stories, um, and telling them to your kids, um, to me is like important. To me, now, some people, I know some people have hard, have had hard lives and they don't have those grandparents, but everybody has a story and everyone has something that they bring to the table. And I'm always big on value, and I think everybody has value in everything that they do. Regardless. I've mentioned before, I use my native culture as an example. I'm a talker. I'll talk your ear off. We'll talk about anything. You give me something to talk about, or I come up with something. I'll talk, and I can tell your story. I'm a storyteller. But I have family members and I have people around me who bead, who paint, who are amazing artists. You know, people that that do those things, and I think all of it's very important. People who do fashion. All this stuff is important. There's people that who just have attention to detail, and they can crunch the numbers. Those are gifts. Those are things that need to be expounded upon to help people. Um, but like I said, we're almost at an hour. If you have a story, or if you want to talk about something, you can come in for 5 minutes. Say, hey, I just want to talk about this. Um, the link is in the chat. So if you want to come in, hit that link. It'll notify me if you want to come in, tell your story, talk about if you want to talk about something, or if you got an opinion, you tell me the podcast sucks, and then shoot, hey, let's get at it. But or you can tell me the podcast is awesome. I appreciate that too. But like I said, this is every time we do live stream is open forum. So if you want to come in and do those things and share your story and do all that stuff, we'll do that. We haven't had anybody yet. You know, I had somebody last couple times be like, "Man, I haven't been on your show very long, like, or I haven't been in your chat very long." Like, no, this is not. Like I said, this is not like every other show. If you come in here one time, you say, "Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell this guy my story." Hey, there it is. But we're going, like I said, we're going till um, we'll do 9:05, I guess. But you know, but one thing that is very, very interesting, when it comes to doing different things and different interviews with people. I think I'm going to not go on any other shows. Um, the only shows that I've been on have been that are actual interviews is Bigfoot Society. Go check them out. And Bigfoot Crossroads. Go check them out as well. Um, those guys, I appreciate them giving me a platform, especially being, when non-natives give natives platforms to kind of tell stories. One thing that I thought was very kind of funny is during my interview with Jeremiah, he kept asking questions. Like he said, "Well, what does that mean?" Like I'll say things in kind of a vague way because I don't want to say it like what I really want to say, because I think sometimes a misconception happens because some people, like, words mean things, obviously, and like when I was describing what I thought about what Bigfoot is, he wanted me to expound on that, of like what what I thought those Bigfoot were, when basically called them kind of like people. And I think that's one thing that when I see, excuse me, God, my voice is going, y'all. It's coming. But when I see different podcasts and other different, how I say, people with platforms, telling native things, and it's not coming from a native perspective, like they're using their words to describe native things when they're not, it's not really what they mean. Irks me a little bit. Kind of makes me irritated, and I turn it off, and I don't listen to that person until they palate cleanse themselves by having a native on. And there's a few big people in the industry that do that, and on YouTube, and you know, teach their own. Maybe they were told this information and they were allowed to share it. That it is what it is. But just having that representation, and I think a lot of it too is you don't have a lot of I don't think you have a lot of native circles who are willing to share that. I know the spirit talkers are. I know there's a few other podcasts that do talk about those things, which and I advise you guys to go check them out. Um, like I said, I'm gonna give a shout out right now to a few of them. Like I said, Spirit Talkers, E Society, Magnez podcast. That's another good one to listen to. You have, um, man, I'm, uh, you have a few other ones. Geez, I'm losing my train of thought on that. But like I said, there's multiple podcasts that you can go listen to. Um, oh, Classic Wolf podcast is another one. Is a good one. Um, well, like I said, there's people out there that if you want to hear, you know, what it is, what native, spooky stuff. There's people out there that you can find, um, and also myself. Hi, my name is Yahola Tiger. Um, I'll be happy to answer. Like I have people who ask questions. I had a guy who was asking me about LP and wanted to know if he had run into an LP. He had been seeing this creature outside his pond, and he has kids that play in that pond during the day. But he's been so scared of this thing and this creature, and he said it was a very small one, but he could tell it wasn't right. It wasn't natural. And he asked me, he goes, "Well, what do you think I should do?" I said, "I just told him leave it alone." I said, "Is it bothering you?" He said, "Not really. Nothing's happened, but I don't want my kids to come across it." So then I just told him my advice would be just to leave it alone because it's doing what it's got to do, and you just sometimes you just got to move around because like I mentioned before, sometimes we impart we impart where we are on other things, and that's kind of what my advice to that person was. And like I said, guys, last chance if you want to hop in. Like I said, the link. If I need to repost it, let me know. But if you want to come in, share a story, or have a topic you want to talk about, come on in. We'll get it cooking. But like I said, we're going to be ending this show in a couple minutes. So if you, like I said, if you want to come on and share your story or talk about something or bring up a topic, that's on. It's up to you. Put the balls in y'all's court. But but yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That guy, asking me about it. And I said I had somebody asking me about a owl, and they wanted me to give some backstory on that. I have a book being sent to me by somebody about Cherokee stories, old Cherokee stories, um, and so I'll read that. Um, I'll be doing a review of Alaskan Killer Bigfoot as well. That is something that I thought was kind of. I'll give you guys like a synopsis, but like it was kind of, I don't know. It was weird. One of the weirdest shows I've seen when it comes to like trying to, I don't know, get rid of a Bigfoot or I don't know. It was very odd. I had like took notes on a lot of the history and was trying to figure out if this was real because sometimes they be producing shows that aren't real and they're passing it off as real. That's kind of show business, I guess. But I thought it was I thought it was very odd. That's Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. I'm going to be reviewing American Werewolves. That was made by Seth Breedlove, Small Town Monsters production. I thought that was a very good documentary. I thought some of the native stuff was kind of, eh. Like I said, once again, it's non-natives telling native perspectives, um, and not having anybody from that native area to talk about the weird werewolf things that go on in Texas. I think it was Texas. Anyway, I mean, I had to look that up, but no, I'm sorry, it was the LBL in that Ohio area. Somebody had me. I'll be reviewing Dogman Triangle as well. I thought that was really interesting, especially that kind of corridor. Kind of that's very strange. And then I had someone mention they wanted to do the Bridgewater Triangle. So, like I said, we got some things coming down the pipeline. Like I said, we'll be doing another live stream this week. I'll be posting that on Facebook. Um, but you guys can catch me on Facebook, Yahola Tiger. Um, make if you want to add me as a friend on Facebook, make sure you send me a message. Let me know you listen to the podcast. Um, TikTok and Instagram are at Warcry Pod. Like, follow, um, and then subscribe to the YouTube, guys. I'm trying to build the YouTube up a little bit. I'm trying to get some steam. I kind of like the live stream aspect of it because it's live. You know, if you can catch me, you can, we can talk live. If you got a comment or something, I think it's kind of cool to interact with you guys. And then the email, real REAL warcry pod at gmail.com. Um, like I said, we're looking at some different things. Me and my one man, like me, myself, and my one teammate who's listening. I appreciate all the things she does to help me out when it comes to designing. Do not forget, guys, in the link below, get yourself a Warcry podcast T-shirt or hoodie or whatever you decide to do. The link is below. You can get yourself in any color. We have multiple logos. We have stickers. I believe we even have coffee mugs too. So go get yourself something. It supports the podcast. Um, and if you guys listen to, like I said, the audio version, I did ads, and those ads that you guys listen to, that you painstakingly listen to for 1 minute, actually bought the equipment that I have now. So, like I said, at the end of the day, it is going to the podcast. So I appreciate you if you go and buy a T-shirt. Let me know you bought a T-shirt too as well. We might have something for you. You know, you never know. Christmas, we're looking at doing some things. But like I said, that is all in the link below. It's in the description. Go get you a T-shirt. Go get you a sticker, and let me know. Like I said, we'll see what we can do. But I appreciate everyone that's been listening. I appreciate everyone that listens to the podcast. We're at 11,000 total view or total downloads, and that doesn't include YouTube. We've had quite a bit of YouTube activity. Thank you to those who here on YouTube that have subscribed, but continue to like, subscribe, and share. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.